let me introduce our host. Let me get. Once again, we have our awesome host, Jeff Costello from Tribeca Northwest Real Estate. He's been a good friend of ours for several years. Jeff has been a supporter of Battlefield since the beginning, since we were even known. He's been a huge support. He's been a good friend of Art's for several years. He's also in recovery himself, I think 13, 14 years of recovery himself, and a very successful real estate agent here in the Northwest. And he's also part of our board of directors, newly part of our board, which is exciting for us. And just really been a lot of fun having him the host of In the Spotlight with Battlefield Addiction. And he does his homework. And so it's been really great to have him here to introduce and be part of the show. So go ahead, Jeff.
Well, thank you so much. That's a hard follow today. Kyle, I love your comedy. I think just keep it up. I think you're going to do very well. Art, happy birthday. And thank you, Angie, so much. So good evening and welcome back to our third edition of In the Spotlight with Battlefield Addiction. I'm your host. I'm Jeff Costello with Tribeca Northwest Real Living. We used to be Tribeca Northwest Real Estate, but back in July, we became part of the new Real Living franchise, which is a Warren Buffett company. So it's Tribeca Northwest Real Living. And we're in the business of serving and assisting our neighbors, our friends, our clients in buying, selling, leasing real estate. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I absolutely love being a part of Art's vision and his message to the world of recovery. Tonight, I'm super excited to introduce our next guest, Evan Haines. If you have known Art the last couple of years, you know the influence that Evan has had on Art's journey of helping others find and navigate recovery. Evan is married to Alexis Haynes and is a mover and shaker in the world of recovery in Southern California. He's also a father of two beautiful daughters. Evan has a master's degree from the University of British Columbia, which is not too far from here. And he is soon to be or is a published author. I couldn't find that yet, but he can share a little bit more about that in a little bit. His biggest impact is his founding with his best friend and his business partner, Jared Valentine and Bob Forrest. They founded Alo House in Malibu, California back in 2010. Alo House is an individualized 12-step and holistic care program designed to cater different types of people and lifestyles. Probably can help Travis here. The Alo House was recently chosen as the best addiction treatment center by Newsweek. Back in 2018, though, the Alo House Recovery Center almost did not make it with the massive fires in Southern California, which destroyed 5 of their 6 locations, but they did survive and they thrived with Evan's leadership. Tonight, I would like to introduce Evan. I want him to share his story, but I also would like Art to join in the conversation, an unscripted conversation. So with that, I want to introduce my friend, Evan Haines.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you, Art, and happy birthday, and Angie, for inviting me. And I love this community. I tuned in and the music was on and I just felt all the love. You guys are in my heart all the time and I just love you so much. So thank you. I'll jump in and tell a little bit of my story. I mean, I'm in recovery and the Alo House here really started out of I was 5 years sober and sort of a time of crisis in my life. I had Jared and I had just lost my entire life savings in the course of 3 years, trying and failing to become film producers. And we were all kind of sleeping on a friend's floor, going to meetings and, just basically sharing about how, our lives were falling apart and it was okay because we had each other. And that's still kind of my story. You know, it seems there was the fires, now COVID. There's always something. I feel like you know, if you let it, there's going to always be something that'll destroy you. But instead, somehow we've managed to embrace it or ride the wave or whatever, and you know, we're still here 10 years later. So that's been my experience, and like Art, I think my understanding of recovery and of treatment has evolved over the years. I think I've never been sort of satisfied with the kind of outcomes we're having. I've not been satisfied with even just the sort of conventional notion, not only of what treatment is, but what addiction itself is. So I think especially for the last few years, and I really credit Art a lot for, you know, challenging my ideas about what treatment is, what addiction is, and the very first time we sat down for dinner, he cut straight to it and he says, "So, you know, how do you deal with the entitlement problem?" And I didn't have a great answer. I don't know if I still do, but you know, he got me thinking. He always challenged my views, and you know, I give him a lot of credit for that. I don't know if you want to start sort of where you want me to jump in, but you know, I'm happy to talk about almost anything.
Well, I wouldn't mind. You know, I mean, I just want to introduce Evan to you guys, or for me, who he is, and it's gonna make me cry. I got into this business, and I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have anyone to ask questions. In fact, I guess my arrogance made it so that I didn't want to. And I looked around at the local treatment scene, and I was not happy. And I wasn't impressed. I'd learned how to do treatment by going to treatment, and I'd learned all the things that I didn't want in a treatment center. And I got introduced to Evan and was allowed to, and you know, our first meeting was just to meet. And I flew down to LA and met with him and Jared, and I met my first friends, people that I knew had the purest hearts of anyone that I've met in this business. I mean, I am talking pristine motivation inside these people, Evan and Jared. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was a comfort to know that I was up here all alone, and I didn't have any protection. And then Jared and Evan provided me this protection. They said, "Do what you want to do. We got your back." And they took care of me, and they took care of me financially. They took care of me in a lot of ways as business partners, and they helped me with money, and they helped me with lawyers, and they helped me with everything that would be upon my journey. I've been on this journey, and I could never say, I got to say that I've never had anyone do that. And I've never had anyone treat me with the kindness and the compassion that you and Jared did. You never asked anything from me, or never, like, we were just friends. And I've never met guys so sturdy and so there. And that is the proof of what they've made it through down there. I've watched them make it through several Malibu fires, not just one. I've watched them make it through insurance companies not paying anymore, and having them just to have no income coming in, and still have to honor their staff and take care of everyone at their staff. I've watched them have employees really do nasty things to them. I've watched clients do nasty things to them. I've seen them over and over just endure. And Evan does it with a smile all day, every day, without ever even a hint of anger or anything. And whenever I'm in need, he is the person I call to talk to. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I think that people, you're so modest. So we're going to have to dig into really some of the things that you've done, because you're not going to tell everyone. And, you know, you really just won't do that. So, you know, I mean, maybe starting with how it was when you guys how did you meet Bob? How did you meet Bob Forrest, and how did you get involved with Bob and Dr. Drew?
That's a good question. So we'd already been running a sober living for about a year. And our friend, we had a common friend, he has a juice bar here in Malibu, and Bob had helped him 10 years before. And people have been trying to introduce.
Evan, I'll stop you right there. Name that common friend and tell a little bit about that first before you go on, because you just mentioned somebody that's got a pretty successful business down there in Malibu, correct?
Right, Khalil. Yeah, he really does, and he's a great talker. We should get him on here as a guest, actually. But he, yeah, I mean, he was a toothless junkie, sores on his face, you know, and Bob had helped him 10 years ago. Now he's running this chain of juice bars all across, well, between here in Arizona and up to Northern California. I mean, the guy's unstoppable.
What's the name of him? What's the name of the juice bar?
Sun Life.
Sun Life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sun Life. And so, yeah, Khalil and
sorry. I'm sorry, but Travis, if we could do something about art sound, it would be really great while Evan's talking. If we can work on increasing that again. Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, and so people have been trying to introduce us. Khalil finally introduced us. Bob had a client, a sober living client he needed to refer. Now, of course, you know, you work with Bob for a little while, you quickly realize, I mean, this girl was, you know, kind of hoped to die. She was in her early 20s, but had been to treatment at least a dozen times. She had just gotten out of Cry Help Detox, which is like a pretty hardcore detox program down here. She was in pretty bad shape. And he refers her, and he noticed, he instantly picked up on the fact that we had kind of very few rules per se, very little structure. But Jared and I lived in the house, or had recently stopped living in the house, but we were there every day, just like you are. You know, just like I think any successful program, we poured our heart into it, and in that way didn't need the kind of regimented rules that I think a lot of places have to end up relying on because they don't have the heart. He instantly picked up on that. And I remember him even saying, he says, you're probably embarrassed because you don't have any rules and you probably feel bad. And I was like, yeah, like he just pinpointed it. And he said, don't, this is your strength. And he was the first person who really, like, I think he's been an amazing teacher, but he showed us this value that we had that we didn't even kind of know we had. And, you know, that was our heart. It was our compassion. It was our genuine concern for our clients. And the fact that we had no rules, very few, we obviously have some now, but even now I can point to a certain individual. Each rule I could name it after some knucklehead who did something surprising,
yeah.
unthinkable, that we then had to, you know, invent a rule for to, you know, hopefully keep someone safe from doing that thing in the future. And that did become what made us unique. And so we've just been kind of going ever since. And he challenged me, you know, with those questions. I mean, before we met him, we had, like, in fact, I uncovered one of our early business plans was, like, you know, ocean views, 400 thread count sheets, like all this stuff like that. It's fine, but it's not, it doesn't matter. And he, you know, 9 years ago now, I guess, set me out, or kind of kindled something in me that has become this, you know, kind of quest to, in my own and our own humble way, kind of solve this puzzle, which is addiction and treatment. You know, and we're writing a book right now, actually called, it'll be released in the fall. We'll make sure you get some copies up there, even, you know, before it comes out, but called America is Addiction, a radical revisioning of the drug problem. And what we mean by that is not to like so much blame or point the finger at the culture that we live, but to show that there's a parallel between America and the addiction problem. The parallel is that both are problems of conditioning, habits. In the case of America, I mean, you can trace a lot of those habits back probably 10,000 years. In the case of an addict, you know, these habits start forming when we're very small. They can be formed by our parents, who we model after. That everything we do, everything we say is a habit. It's not a bad thing. That's how we learn. Addiction is not actually a disease. According to a neuroscientist named Mark Lewis, it's a product of deep learning. And they call it a chronic relapsing brain disease because they're seeing some wasting, what looks like wasting, occurring in the gray matter of the prefrontal cortex. But in fact, that is synaptic pruning that occurs anytime we learn. So if you learn a language, there's going to be a lot of kind of neuro connections being made. But once you know the language, you don't want to have to think about how you construct a sentence every time you talk. So those synapses are going to start pruning away. They're calling that a brain disease. That's learning. So we learn to do drugs. We learn to learn a language. It's really the same thing. It's a habit. It's a habit. And so there's something else going on. And I believe that some habits are healthier or more pleasant or produce a more pleasant result. And some habits can be destructive, can hurt others, can hurt our families. And that the trick is kind of waking up. First of all, seeing it for what it is, the conditioning, and then somehow being able to escape it. That's the trick. That's not easy.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
You want to ask some of your questions that you had?
Well, I mean, we'd had a lot of conversation prior to this. What I really wanted to know from you is adversity is part of addiction, right? And I think, you know, the biggest challenge as somebody that's a business owner or somebody that stays sober is being able to conquer that adversity. And obviously you being down in California and with the fires, I brought that up because we talked a lot about, you know, COVID and the challenges of COVID right now. And when I was doing some research and reading about you, you know, the fires, I mean, that was a big deal because I remember that's about the time right after that, right after that, I met you. So what would you say, you know, it drives you out of your adversity when you first got sober, how you dealt with the fires and how you relocated people and how you built your business, and to today, how are you guys dealing with the COVID? Because I mean, it's causing an effect on our society pretty deeply. So I'm interested to know your opinion, and I hopefully can include Arden into this conversation and get a little dialogue on this.
It's a good question. I actually had a tough day today. I'm going away on Friday in Arizona. I have a deadline for the book, a draft that's due on Thursday. There's no way I'm going to make it. I'm being pulled in all directions constantly, all day, interrupted. Challenges mounting constantly. I had a tough day today. I had a tough day where I felt that pressure. One of my tricks, first of all, is having Jared. I don't look at the bank account. just too much. That's his job. I'm the ideas man. So I'm going to write books and think about all this stuff. And he's going to kind of be my anchor to reality. He sent me some kind of spreadsheet today. I didn't even want to open it up. I assume it's not great news, so I'm going to leave that for now, because my experience of life is that things seem to work themselves out. So with the fires, we were watching them all night. They jumped the 101 freeway at around 5 in the morning, which is maybe about 10 miles from here, up over the hills. It crossed the freeway. I think it was 17 miles wide, and it was moving towards the ocean. The announcement was the new boundary, the new perimeters of the Pacific Ocean. So we made a call 2 hours later to evacuate our clients. Everyone got out safe. That's all that matters. 5 of our 6 houses here in Malibu burned to the ground. I remember hearing that I was driving, Alexis had left with the kids the night before. She was down in Orange County with some relatives, and I was heading down to go meet with them. And I'm on the phone the whole way. I'm hearing about this house burned, that house burned. I get the call finally. There it is. I mean, all the houses were gone. Everything's burned. Everything's destroyed. It's gone. I was driving. I had to pull over. I felt like curling up into the fetal position. My whole life passed in front of my eyes, and I knew this is it. It's over. I'm imagining pulling my kids out of their dance class. I'm going to trade my Volvo in for a Honda, which was my last car. It's fine. But I'm imagining all the actual steps I'm going to have to take. And just then, I forget, someone might have said something, but it occurred to me that the original promises in Los Angeles, that Refuge Recovery was actually there, and they had just gone out of business. Literally, the fires were on a Friday. They had just moved out of the facility on the Monday. Noah himself even called me to say, hey, unfortunately, we're having to, yeah, that's it. Wow. Unfortunately, I'm having a little PTSD now, but I'll be okay. But Noah himself called me and said, hey, I might need to move some clients. We're having to close. And so it occurred to me, wait, that house, there's 3 houses in Los Angeles. The original promises, Richard Rogg, the owner who sold the business maybe 10 years ago, Promises, he's a mentor of ours. I knew he'd held on to the real estate. I called him, texted him. He finally called back. And I said, Richard, is there any way we could get into those houses? He goes, yeah, I had some other people. I'm going to make some calls. Let me figure it out. That was a Friday. Sunday, we picked up the keys. Monday morning, our clients were all in Airbnbs and scattered about with nurses. I mean, no one left. These guys were incredible, by the way. It was mostly male clients we had at the time. One would, this was the perfect excuse. One was about to leave. The others would gather around. It wasn't us. It was the clients. They'd say, no, man, you got to stay. We're in this together. We're like the Fire Brothers. And then literally 5 minutes later, that guy was going to leave, and the others would gather around him, and convince him to stay. And they all stayed. I mean, we wouldn't be here right now if those like 15 inpatient clients had left. We'd be gone. And thank God they stayed. I mean, that's luck. That's things working themselves out. That's not even me making brilliant moves and figuring it out. The fact that Promises was empty, and it's an argument for having mentors too, that I called Richard, that the house was available. We moved the clients, and Monday morning it was literally turnkey. Sheets on the bed, pots and pans, plates. It was beautiful. It's paradise. It still is. And that was a lot of luck. I don't even know. Somehow the universe wanted us to keep going. And so we're going to keep going. And that's my approach. I've imagined so many times that this is it, and I'm going to have to move under the bridge with my family, in our cardboard box, and that's it. And it's never happened yet. It hasn't happened once. Today was a tough day. I was stressed out today. But here we are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So Evan, I've been doing a lot of close examination of addiction and how people come in. And I have seen the number one identity is not that of an addict that I see. It's not people coming in like, I'm a junkie and I'm proud of it, or this is what I do. I'm just a partier, or I'm a drunk, or they're not happy, or I'm even a homeless person. They come in and they come in, and a lot of times they come in as victims, and that's the identity, is a victim. And I see it, I mean, now I see it loud and it's predominant. I can't avoid, I hear it in everything. I hear it in why somebody is late to wake up because they're a victim to their alarm clock. I hear why they're not able to attend group because they're a victim to their roommate, or whatever this tone that comes in. So my point is that what I've realized about that is that the victim identity precedes failure. In fact, it requires it. It absolutely 100% requires failure. And if you listen, they will tell you months before the failure why they're going to fail. They will say something to the extent of, my boss doesn't like me, and then lo and behold, they get fired. Or they'll say, I can't get along with my coworkers, and then lo and behold, they'll get fired. And so for a normal person, it would seem that if you say, my boss doesn't like me, well, then therefore to succeed, I must make my boss like me. But this isn't normal. This is this victim identity that says, I have to fail. I have to get cheated on by my boyfriend. I have to, whatever it is. And it's weird because you see you guys, you and Jared, and you just don't have that victim identity, which it means you can't fail. You can't, because you don't have that identity. So I really believe that ultimately failure doesn't even exist. The only thing that exists is somebody's identity. And then that precedes that. And you can watch you guys and just know you're not going to be a victim. So you're going to find a way to get it done. And if we look at these excuses that we're making to fail, and we're usually setting up our failure. And instead of it's much like somebody going, well, my house is going to flood because there's this leaky pipe over there. And then just sitting in your house and letting the leaky pipe flood your house, rather than absolutely get up and fix the pipe. You would normal people that do. So what do you think about, I mean, this victim identity, it's disguised too. And
I think that our culture rewards victims.
Yeah.
And the saddest thing about that, besides the fact that really, like, no one wants to be a victim. The people who've actually suffered abuses, true victims, you could say, themselves don't want to be victims. It's like this thing we aspire to, whereas the people who've legitimately experienced something that looks like that, they don't want that. So really, who wants it? We want it because our culture rewards it. Because I believe it's the only place we can get attention, compassion, empathy, all of these things that are missing from the sort of more mainstream culture, which is cutthroat, ruthless, where you've created this island of sanity and community, and everyone was dancing and everyone loves each other, and those jokes were hilarious. That's not the world. We have to, and you've done it. And the thing I've looked up to you for, among other things, is doing something that I've always meant to do, which is creating an actual community of people who are living together, working together, playing together. It's such a beautiful thing. And you can create it with any kind of values you want. And if you consciously decide not to value victimization because you see that there's no upside to it, only downsides, we make those decisions now consciously. So I agree. I mean, life in my experience, it just kind of keeps going, I suppose, until it doesn't. And so as long as I'm here, I'm just going to keep going. Now, having kids raises the stakes because I wouldn't mind living under the bridge or sitting in my studio apartment with my tracksuit with food spilled down the front. But my wife and kids aren't going to be kind of happy about that. So, I live for other people now, which is.
I mean, just as simple as like, if I look at you and Jared's identity, I mean, what's really odd too is that I would say you two identify as survivors. And what's phenomenal about that is that you're always put in situations where you have to survive. and it's like almost as if you guys are like, well, you're survivors, so you're always seeming to be hanging on the edge of a cliff.
I don't like that. I think I need an identity makeover.
Yeah.
Jared and I were just talking about it this morning, and I'm sick of like hanging on to life by the edge of my seat. It's too much of an adventure. I'm done. I need a quiet life where everything's predictable. It's too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
When you put yourself on the court and you get voted one of America's top treatment centers in the country, you have to be hanging on the edge of a cliff. And to get that kind of reward, you have to be taking risks. I mean, and you're taking big risks.
You're right. You're right.
And it's beautiful to see, actually. It's inspiring to see that you will take those risks. Jeff, you got another question?
Well, it's probably for both of you guys, but Jared is a big part of what you do, and for a lot of people that are out here, and what I've noticed is that there's got to be some sort of partnership, and what I hear is your relationship with your best friend and your business partner has helped you get to where you are, and same thing with you. Art and with Angie. I mean, you guys have built something together, and for all those people that are out there, sobriety and recovery takes more than you can't do it by yourself. Is that right?
Yeah,
exactly. I wouldn't have the stomach for it. Like like I said, Jared has to look at the bank. I can't look at it. And when we've had to fire people, or when we've had to make these tough calls, and I literally can't imagine those fires, whatever it might be, having to do those things by myself. And what I'm waiting for now is to find out, man, Travis is good with those images, right on the money. What I'm waiting to find out now is that Jared never actually existed. And if you've seen Fight Club, that I'm going to find out that he was in the whole time.
So tell me what is the relationship? I mean, how did you and Jared come together? You shared a little bit about that with me on one of our calls, but for everybody else that doesn't know you, how did you two come together?
Let me answer that first, though, Evan. You remember when I walked into the restaurant?
Yes.
Now I walk in. I'm a guy from Seattle. Just so I wear sweatsuits. I don't believe in skinny jeans. I don't believe in medium t-shirts when you're large. I don't believe in any of these kind of things. And I show up, and then they're debating with me about what restaurant to meet at. And it got some really weird kind of titles to the restaurants, whatever it was. And then finally they said we could go to, what was it called? Baby Blues?
Baby Blues Ribs.
Baby Blues Ribs. And I was like, there was a football game on. I was like, I'm going to go to the rib place in Venice, watch this football game. It was like Sunday night football. And yeah. And I was excited and because they were going there, but I show up, and then these two men who are partners are sitting at this table in skinny jeans and tight shirts and nice haircuts. And they both look like actors. I don't think they're treatment dudes. I'm like, these guys got to be actors or models or something. I don't know what the hell the deal is. And my first question was, so you guys are partners? I had to say it. And that was the first thing that happened. I had the question. They said, no, we're straight men, and we're just business partners. So go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, this is still the case. Still the case. He is probably my heterosexual life partner. And we've known each other for 20 years. I met him at his 20th birthday party. He just turned 40. And we grew up in the same suburb. I'm about 6 years older. so we didn't we went to the same school at different times. And we've just been involved in a string of, failed businesses for as long as I can remember, until this one, which actually worked. And I still don't believe it. I'll be on my deathbed one day and be like, I can't believe it worked. But, I think we were growing weed in the basement when we first met. Then we switched to film, lost my entire life savings. Like I mentioned, somehow I didn't kill him. And I think at that moment, when I didn't kill him for losing all my money, we knew that we could get through anything. And that's what we've done ever since.
So a couple other things about Evan and Jared. I remember we were driving down the 101 in Malibu, and I was suggesting that if we did this kind of treatment with all this traffic in LA, and it was taking us hours to get anywhere we go, and I was suggesting that we must, if you're going to keep building this business together, we have to get a helicopter. We can't just drive down the 101. We got to take the helicopter over to LA. And then of course Evan mentions to me that he's actually a helicopter pilot. Hadn't told me, but just things like that. And when Evan says he lost all his money, what happened was that they started to do a film. If you guys have ever seen the documentary called Cocaine Cowboy, isn't that what it's called, Evan?
Yeah.
The documentary is called Cocaine Cowboy, and it's about a woman named Griselda Blanco. And Griselda Blanco was a huge Colombian drug lord that had a family that was distributing drugs in America, and she was a killer. And you and Evan, go ahead and tell for a second about how you and Evan set out to make a movie about her and met her.
Yeah, she started out Pablo Escobar. She gave Pablo Escobar his first kilos, and we went to Miami. We filmed with her son, who's named Michael Corleone. That's his name. He's on house arrest now. I don't know if he's gone to jail. He got set up in a sting by the cops. He would always tell us, I just want to break the family curse. I want to make movies. And I guess he got pulled back in. He was not able to break the family curse. Jared, then we sent him to Colombia. So he went there with a crew from Vice. They spent 2 weeks in Medellin, Colombia. There she is, with the godmother. She did at least 10 years in Miami before being extradited back to Colombia. Jared spends time with her, gets the first ever footage of the woman. We got hours and hours of interviews with her. No one has ever seen it besides us. We were never able to turn it into something. The family, of course, stabbed us in the back. We had a movie deal. We were about to make a movie with Megan Ellison, who's Larry Ellison's daughter. She's a very successful filmmaker, Annapurna Films. I mean, we were ready to go, and we were asking for one more year on the option, but the family, before they realized we were actually going to pull it off, thinking we weren't, went behind our back and signed a new contract with someone else who now, 12 years later, that was 2008. No, that was 2011. So they never pulled it off. We were about to pull it off. And so if anyone has any connections, I got all this footage. We could make a documentary film. Maybe Travis could stitch it all together, turn it into something. So Jared spent 2 weeks with her, crazy adventures, and she was assassinated. She was assassinated by a motorcycle assassin, which was a technique with the guy in the back with the Uzi or whatever, a technique that she herself invented back in the day.
Wow.
She's dead.
And commenting a little bit, Jeff, on relationship, and for us here at this program, what we're working on, we have a model that we're working on where we have a practice called mindfulness and a fundamentals called values. And so we practice the fundamentals of our values of keeping our word, but the game of life is relationship. And there would be very little reason for recovery without the game of relationship. If you didn't play that game, no one would need to recover. So really, we're trying to have a focus on, and that's the importance of relation. and to learn how to relate with people again, and to learn how to be powerful in our relationships, and to learn how to make friends and keep our word and be lifetime friends with people, and to stick it out with folks and actually talk things out. And so our big focus here is on staying clean. And we think to stay clean, I believe is to stay clean, you must have values that are shared with another human being, and you must then use them in the relationship, and that must be the fundamentals for the relationship. That's it. And so this model that we're working on has everything to do with what we're talking about. And if you recovered from drugs and alcohol on a desert island by yourself, you wouldn't need recovery. You wouldn't need self-awareness. You wouldn't need values. You wouldn't need anything. So the whole game is, how do I get back in the game of relation? How do I build a big life with other folks in it that we can have lifetime bonds and stay together? And it's the example of Jared and Evan is an example of two people that had to work it out, two people that had to make up for each other's, make up for each other's shortcomings and provide for the other one and not resent that, and actually, share values together. So we think relationship, personally for me, and recovery relationships, the most
it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. And it's amazing how, we haven't talked as much as I would like. The whole world is kind of ground to a halt. But on our own odysseys, Art and I have both ended up basically in the last year at this same conclusion. So I find that fascinating. It's kind of like how they built the pyramids in Egypt and in the Americas, like at the same time, but didn't know about each other doing it.
Weird. Even you said the word values, and that's what we're working on right now. And it's very weird that we haven't talked in a while and come up with that same model.
I love the model. I get it, and I 100% agree. The only thing I would add, just it's a detail, and it's already, I'm sure, implicit in your model, but that this is what I'm discovering life is about. It's about reducing unnecessary suffering. And this is the key. 90% of the suffering in the world is unnecessary. And through relationships, through a new game with new rules based on new values that we've chosen. Yeah, wait, that didn't say that before, did it?
Yeah. No, we that's what the mindfulness practice is. It's the reducing suffering and the gaining power and awareness.
See, so
yeah,
we're on the same wavelength. Like, and we can't take credit for this stuff. We didn't think about this stuff on our own. It was somehow revealed to us, and we were open to receiving these kinds of messages and inspiration, and to imagine that this might be the case. Like, how did we both imagine that was what life was about? And because I really feel there's no other purpose to life but to enjoy it, and to enjoy it with each other in ways that don't detract from the enjoyment of others. There has to be some game rules. Mm-hmm. There has to be, because my enjoyment might conflict with yours.
I came to the conclusion through working with the families on here and all these families that without distinguishing what our family values are that we pick, the ones that we prioritize as a family to put above circumstances and to govern our actions, and to say, I just line up with my fundamental values. And if people don't line up with those values or don't have values, I cannot be in a relationship with them, and I must exit the relationship. And if we as a family don't raise our children with these known shared values, well, they'll meet the guy in 8th grade that is looking cool, and they'll do what he says to do. And they'll just follow whatever dumb shit idea that the cool kid in junior high has, whether that's to smoke weed or stay out all night, sell drugs, or lie, or be loyal, or manipulate, or whatever his ideas are. And I think the most important part right now is establishing shared values, and so that we can have a friendship or we can have a relationship, and to eliminate those folks that don't stand for things in your life.
And I think that's where the mindfulness comes in. It goes back to what I was saying about conditioning and how everything becomes so habitual. We're born into this world, and most parents, bless their hearts, I mean, I would have thought so too, that they'll say and they'll teach you, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
But the mindfulness helps you realize that no. This could be any number of ways. It just happens to be like this.
Right.
And so mindfulness is this key to waking up, to observing kind of the absurdity of much of it, or the kind of subtle but destructiveness in a lot of current relationships and things like that, or to notice that, here I'm trying to do this or I'm trying to do that, which isn't to say that like a lot of those kind of animal drives, which are kind of central to so much of suffering, but of joy, that seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, those aren't bad things. In fact, I think we can almost learn to harness them, work with them, let them guide us, or to be our guides, but in new conscious ways.
Well, and mindfulness being this paying attention, and then what is it that I'm paying attention to? And when two people in a relationship, what they're busy doing is paying attention to each other. And one's watching the other's movements and reacting to them, and the other one's watching the other one's movements and reacting to those. And we just become a relationship reaction, rather than saying, wait, there's power in mindfulness, because rather than watching you, I can watch me watch you. I can watch me first. I can take an upward position up here and watch me operate in the relationship rather than just reacting to you. And it gives us that space. And I think that, that's the problem with relationships. They become a stalemate of two people reacting to each other. One saying you should improve in this way, and then maybe I'll improve after you do that. And then the other one saying you should improve in this way. Well, responsibility with mindfulness comes responsibility. I'm responsible for the way I'm like a camera on me rather than on you. And I keep that camera on me, which makes me powerful in the relationship, which makes me actually the adjuster, or me the one that must always improve. And if we can, use mindfulness in that way in our relationships, we then, have a chance. Both people go back to their respective corners and consider the possibility that you're fucked up, rather than go to those corners and consider the possibility of how fucked up the other person is. I mean, that's deep as it gets. Right now in these families, everyone on here, what if each of the family members went back to their respective corners and said, let me see how I can improve. Let me watch me rather than watch my sibling or watch my mom or whatever. Well, it's over. The fight's over at this point. So with mindfulness, the fight can be over. We can just relate again, So I think that's the importance of it.
And seeing that feedback, like if I do this, and it's amazing how many people walk into a room and don't even realize the impact they have. And I think it's part of it is playing small.
That's right.
And imagining that we're not there.
Yes.
We're afraid of ourselves because consciousness itself is so much bigger than ourselves. It is this thing that first of all, we can't escape. We try to anesthetize ourselves because it is this huge responsibility. It's a huge responsibility.
Right. And to even see people and to see how they for sure know that they can negatively impact the room. They know that. People are really hip to that they can come into a room and start thrashing around, pout, and they can negatively impact the room. But so very few people know that on the flip side of that, how much they can positively impact a room with their
how much better it feels.
Yes,
it feels good. There's this new theory. These guys on the internet, they have a website called the Qualia Research Institute, and they're basically part of this new study of consciousness, and they've found a way to measure qualia being the felt experience of being alive. It's something that no one understands, no one's ever certainly measured, but that it's an objective thing that can be measured using what they call the symmetry theory of valence. So valence being basically a range of emotional states from very unpleasant ones to very pleasant ones. And that consciousness itself seems to be a tool to help kind of tune our brains to harmonize with others, with the world, within ourselves even, and move that experience over to the sort of positive end of the scale. It's very interesting. And one of the implications is that qualia, that conscious emotional states, that the feeling of being alive isn't just something contained in me. Like, that's traditionally science has said, like, the only thing we can be sure of is me. And so everyone's walking around only being sure maybe that they exist. But by being able to measure it, like, I all of a sudden have to take much more seriously your feelings and your experience, not being responsible for them, but knowing that indeed I might be responsible for
the impact,
all kinds of impact.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, Ange, do we want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, it'd be great, because it's already 8:13, so we have almost 20 minutes left, and I bet you there's some people out there who have a question.
Let me ask one question, because we've introduced Evan as the Alo House, but his screen says the Alo House.
I was just going to ask
That's just another thing. So we used to be called Acadia Malibu, and some big company sent us a letter and we had to change our name. Well, it just happened again. This is endless. This stuff just keeps going on. They're just going to keep gunning for you, apparently, and that's okay. So we're just going to roll with it. And this is our new name. You're seeing it here first. We wanted to keep it 3 letters, and ideally only have to change 2 of them to save on our signage.
Yes.
It was super easy. They came in and they flipped it. Oro, of course, means gold in Spanish. But yeah, Alo Yoga apparently had a problem with us. I sat through 10 hours of depositions. It was awful, and we eventually just settled with them.
And they were in business prior to 2010?
The whole thing, we might have had a case. They were in business before us, but they were selling stretchy pants. We were doing addiction treatment, but they said they were doing yoga and mindfulness and meditation. We were too. So there's this like little couple of month period where they may have had that we crossed over into each other's space. We might have won the case, but it would have cost us, more than it was worth. So,
man. All right. Well, that was my question. Stacy Thompson has got her hand up, and let's get you unmuted, Stacy. But let me announce to everybody. So, if you want to get in line because you have a question, open to all questions, you just raise your hand. There's a raise your hand feature on Zoom, and so people are starting to get in line. So very good. So, Stacy Thompson, can we get you unmuted? Can we hear you yet?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So I have a question. If I have a daughter that is an addict, she lives down in Orange County. She has a business, and of course, because it's of the pandemic, she's in a pickle. But she can still work. But anyway. Does your centers, you said you were unstructured and stuff, do you allow addicts to go out and work?
Excuse me, Angie, can you please spotlight her?
I mean, she has her own business. She's self-employed, and she has employees.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a situation like that, I mean, good for her. It's hard to start your own business. I know. I mean, it's almost impossible.
She's doing very badly.
Yeah,
she's an addict,
Yeah. Well, hey, a lot of people who don't do drugs are doing very badly right now. It's tough. What's her business?
She's an esthetician.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a business called Eye Candy, and she does sugaring and facials and all kinds of stuff. So they have a lot of procedures.
Trust me, the kind of things we do, because we have an outpatient too. So now all of our sober living clients are outpatient. Art knows about this. I mean, at least you jump in and make the groups yourself. But the requirements from the insurance companies, we're running these groups hour after hour, 6 hours at the PHP level, 3 hours at the IOP level. I would much rather our clients in the perfect world were out in the world, working, hanging out, living life itself. Life is the greatest teacher, of course, of all. So it would just vary on depend on someone's schedule, but someone could probably organize their schedule around those 3 hours of.
Evan, it would also vary on the acuteness of the young lady. I mean,
Yeah, she's in bad shape.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah, she's in bad shape now, but I'm thinking maybe down the road.
Yeah.
After maybe because she doesn't want to. Her thought is, well, I don't want to be gone 90 days. I'm talking about arts program, and and I'm like, well, I'm thinking that's the only way to go, but if she had somebody to fall back on closer to home, she doesn't have anything back there. She's lost everything she's owned. She's had her car repoed, etc.
It's a tough situation. I'm sorry you're all.
It is very tough, and I try to lend as much empathy as I can, because I just say, honey, I'm really sorry to hear this. I've never been in that position. I hope you understand that, you have to solve this yourself.
You have the best team in the world here.
I don't know if that was the right thing to say, but I mean, she got herself into this,
Oh, wait, Stacey, I think that part of the problem with people convincing each other or being convinced that some a drug addict and active addiction can solve anything is, and they can't. What she needs is treatment, and whether that's we work out a program with Jared down at Evan's place or my place, it's been our experience that whatever they have to lose before they're ready to go to treatment. They have to lose all of it, and it doesn't work very effectively when somebody's trying to hang on to something and do treatment at the same time. It just doesn't.
I know. It seems very counterproductive, and I don't want to throw it back on her, but she wanted money. She wanted a lot of money. And so at this point, I do have to throw it back on her and say, it's not my position that, it's not, don't blame others for your thing. I didn't say that, but I don't know. I'm trying to be very careful to what I say to her, but I just don't try to give her money, It's like
a good forum for the moms group. Join them tomorrow at 11. It's also a good forum for the private coaching. We do that on the side. We'll work with Evan or whoever it is that we can get her in. So,
sorry.
Thank you.
A little carried away.
Thank you,
Okay.
And so, Evan, are there any sober homes over there in Orange County that you guys have?
We don't have any in Orange County, but if you
for the next step
with mom, just reach out and we'll
okay.
Stacey, we'll get you all taken care of.
Carrie and Doug Burrows, for whatever reason, I couldn't get Stacey. I think it's because our camera was off. It's letting me put you guys on spotlight. Can we get you unmuted?
Hi,
Doug. Hi, guys.
Hi.
They're in Palm Springs right now.
Oh, neighbors.
Yeah. 5 more days. Then we get to go home.
Enjoy.
To the cold. Yeah. Okay, so this is for Evan and Art. So Evan, you were talking about your day today and the joys of running a business. And it can be tough. So you're talking about you have an org structure there where you've got people that manage the finances. You're the idea guy. You probably got some operations people. So you've got people in lanes working through this stuff. So you guys, when you're working with clients, what is kind of the path or the road for the life challenges you get of running your daily life operations, the finances, the roof needs to be fixed. I got to be to work. I got to work overtime. Kind of what is the path that you lay out for the folks to get them to begin to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, you do put one foot in front of the other and you're not a victim. You're moving through life.
Yeah. I mean, that's all that life skill stuff. It's key. We've we've designed whole programs for young people, and that's the focus. I still think no one does it better than you do, Art and Angie. I mean, having this community where in some cases you can employ those young people yourself, where there's much more kind of control is not the right word, but involvement, where there's that positive role modeling, where there's that built-in accountability, where that's just what you do. I mean, you're part of the community, you're part of the family, exactly. You're part of the family. Kind of like I have two kids, two girls. They're 4 and 7, about to be 8. And something I heard that I'll never forget was, you don't pay your kids to do the chores because that's just what they do to contribute to the household. Anything, you pay them to get good grades. That's their job.
Yeah.
So, and that's what's going to really help them. So, I mean, it's all about building in incentives. And I mean, incentives are the big thing. And it's tough. It's a hard world because our ancestors 500 million years ago was like a tube, and it would go around hunting, and it would get a little piece of food, and it would get a little shot of dopamine, and it would stop hunting for a second, and then the dopamine would wear off, and it would keep going, and it would find mates, and it would ward off potential predators, and they could learn just these little sort of tubes. We've kept that kind of pleasure reward function because it's a great teacher, for all of these 500 million years. In our world now, where we're sending kids out to, say, go work at Starbucks or whatever, there is no hit of dopamine. There's no hit of dopamine. No wonder they do drugs. Yeah. Now, that means our job, at Battlefield or Apollo or Oro, is to show them something that's as compelling as these drugs, which are very powerful and feel really good. And I think that is community, belonging, connection, attachment, love, those kind of things. So if you can somehow build in work to that, then you don't even have to teach them. I mean, you just show them. You do it with them, you do it for them, and eventually they do it by themselves, and they do it for you, or we just do it for each other. We become kind of one thing.
Let me answer in a different perspective. That was great. I mean, thank you. I mean, it was good. And I think that idea that they can't go out and get the same thing at Starbucks and mediocre jobs or whatever, that they don't feel it is their calling, but they're doing it for whatever reason, is a tough grind. And it sometimes leads. I find that it's a fine line between smashing dreams and keeping them in reality. And I don't want to smash dreams. And when a kid's newly sober and he tells me their big dreams of buying a home, I don't want to sit here with him and tell him really the ridiculousness of what he's saying when he doesn't have a job yet. And so it's this fine line of like, I don't want to smash your dreams, but I got to keep you in reality. And you're not going to go to LA and become an actor right now. Just slow down, or you're not going to start instead of I got kids here that want to start a fishing guide business, and it's like, well, just wait. That's a great dream, but maybe you should work on a boat first. And it's that fine line between. And for me, I think only thing that matters is that they lose the victim thought. Now, if you lose the victim thought and you get rid of those, and you start to take control and responsibility for your life, what's replacing those victim thoughts is creativity. And I think that's the real thing, is that they're not creating, and they have to get what's inside them out to the world in whatever form they get it in. There has to be self-expression. They have to self-express. They have to say, this is me. This is all pent up in here. And I need to show you what I think. I need to make a song. I need to cut hair. I need to have my own business. I need to do whatever it is I need to do so I can show the world that I'm something. And I think that working for Starbucks is a dangerous job for a drug addict. These kind of jobs are dangerous, and that's a lot of the times what's available. So now you gotta say, well, okay, well, now you take that money and do something good and put it over here. What ends up generally happening, though, is that they get these these jobs that they don't feel like are them, and then they don't get any self-expression. They start becoming a victim, and then on the weekends they just go to the casinos and get rid of the money and have gambling problems or develop things like that, which they never get to that point of reaching their dreams. And that's why I think the elimination of this victimhood and getting on with what creativity in whatever fashion is the utmost important, is that they're creating. We have to create. And
we were talking a lot about that the other day, that where we find ourselves now is in the spectator society.
Yes.
Everyone's just watching screens or just watching. We're not participating. I think that creative power is it's our birthright.
Yes, and they're counting on somebody else to create their life. Somebody else to like make it happen. Like, I'm going to work for this company and they're going to make me rich. No, they're not. I'm going to work for this company and they're going to really want me and want my ideas. No, they don't. Mm-hmm. You have to make this happen. And in order to make it happen, you have to be in bed thinking about the next day. You cannot be and you have to be pulled out of bed by ideas. See, people aren't being pulled out of bed by ideas. They're being pulled out of bed by their complaints. They're being pulled out of bed by obligation. They're being pulled out of bed by somebody wanting them to get out of bed because they have to. And then what they do is they go right to the screen, right to the phone, to check yesterday's news, to check yesterday's scores, to take somebody else's stupid Facebook posts or whatever it is. Put the phone away. Get out of bed because you're excited. You want to create something. And that's anything. I don't care if you're excited to make breakfast. I don't care. Make a breakfast that you didn't eat yesterday. I don't care if you're excited to take a walk, excited to go buy a puppy, whatever it is. But people need to wake up and be up because they're pulled out of bed with ideas. I'm so excited about this idea. It's 4 a.m. I wish there was somebody awake that I could tell. I wish there was somebody to talk to. Instead, it's just, and the phones are a big deal. This phone addiction, there is no creation on the phone. None. You stare at the phone, play that game, watch that stupid video. I will tell you right now, not like some of the videos on YouTube and are stupid. 100% of the videos you watch on your phone are stupid. There's nothing that's not stupid. Show it to me. It's fucking stupid.
Except Solution Group from last week.
Whatever you're watching, it's stupid. Whatever. And they spend time watching stupid videos. And it's all stupid. And everyone wants to show me their stupid video like I'm going to laugh. I'm not laughing. It ain't funny. It's not. So, you know what's cool is actually creating and saying, and just this idea that somebody could go to bed at 9 o'clock at night and go, tomorrow, guys, I'm going to cook pork chops. I don't care what it is, but I know now that you're thinking of creating tomorrow, which I know that your mind is right. I know that you're healthy and you're not going to live the same day you did yesterday. And that's what it is can we get them to stop blaming the past? Stop talking about that. Stop. I don't care what your mother did. I don't care how your mother is. I don't care. What are you doing tomorrow? What do you want to do?
And tap into that passion, those interests. It is amazing. And the phone could be something else. You know, people used to pay a lot of money to go to school, you know, to get these educations. We have, you know, the entirety of Earth's knowledge at our fingertips, and we're watching cat videos or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could really be like, find that thing that excites you, that joy. Joseph Campbell used to say, follow your bliss. I mean, that's I think still great advice.
Yes.
That was good. That was good.
Funny.
Men over 30 in skinny jeans. Hopefully everybody can see that. That's good. So we do need to start wrapping up. I hate this. It's already 8:30.
Question?
There's nobody else in line, but we'll start wrapping up the final thoughts. But can I just say, Evan, I just really want to acknowledge you and just say thank you so much. You know, for the 3 years or 4 years that I've known you, anytime I call Evan, his energy is as if I'm the only person on the planet in that moment. And your presence and your energy tonight from the moment you logged in is absolutely so present, as if we are the only important people in your world. And well, thank you so much. I love your energy. It oozes through the screen, and I know that you have such a busy life, and you've had a crazy several years, and every single time I've ever called, ever texted, anything, you're always there, and you're always just give of yourself, and just thank you for that. So
you're so welcome, and you're a hero of mine, Angie, and I feel the same way about you, and I would do anything for you guys, anytime, always.
Thank you.
Once again, everyone, Evan, it was an honor to come on our show. Thank you. Jeff, do you want to close out and say a few words, or do you have any other final closing questions?
Oops, we can't hear you. Let's get you unmuted, Jeff.
How's that? All right. No, I just wanted to say thank you, Evan Haines of the Alo House. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing with us tonight. Thank you, Angie and Art. I love you guys. Thank you, everybody who joined us, and we'll see you on our next episode or addiction. Good night, everybody.
Good night. I'm gonna chase you out of earth.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. Good night, good night, good night. All next week.
Bye. See you tomorrow morning at the mother's house.
Yes. Mom's group tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Good night,
All
everybody.
right.
Happy moms.